Hello, welcome back to the channel. I'm Retro Ed. This channel is dedicated to retro video games and old school toys. Today I thought I'd go through and just show some of the hardware and some of the computers and consoles and handhelds that I've amassed over the years, and I've done it in the form of a timeline going back to my first kind of computing experience. There's a few bits I kind of missed out and a few little caveat bits that I'll come on to in a second, but by and large it kind of covers off most of my gaming history. So without further ado, let's take a look. So today I thought we'd do something a little bit different. As you can see across the floor, I've laid out a series of consoles and handhelds and a few bits of paper. So you're probably wondering what is going on, and to be honest I think I am too, after running up and down the stairs a few gazillion times. But basically what you can see laid out is pretty much not far off 40, I think it was about 38, 39 years of my kind of computer or gaming history, starting off as a 5-year-old and kind of working up near enough to present day at the end. So yeah, quick kind of run through of what I've done. It's probably difficult to see, but there's like 3 rows. So there's like the top row there, the middle one, you see like the Game Boy Color, etc. And then some other consoles at the bottom. So the first one is basically microcomputers and consoles that I had when I was a kid, when I was growing up, and kind of bought around the time that they were released. So that's row number 1. Row number 2 is exactly the same as the first one. It's just handhelds that I picked up again when they came out, or shortly after they were released. And then the third row is, so the NES is the first one, slightly out of kilter with the Saturn, but the third row is just consoles and a couple of handhelds at the end. Are items that I bought more recently, probably with a kind of a retro lens, either because I wished I'd had one back in the day, or I didn't have the opportunity, or perhaps certainly didn't have the money. So more recently I've kind of gone back and thought, right, I want to add these bits, add these things to my collection. And I'll whiz through. I'm not going to labour too much on each of the points. But yeah, some things to kind of call out. I think firstly, obviously there's no like PCs within the mix here. I thought if I tried to do that, it would be crazy, and it would be a list of printouts. It wouldn't be particularly interesting. And also mobiles as well. So no like mobile gaming. I did have like an N-Gage. I didn't have it for too long. Unfortunately, I kind of sold it off probably to get the next mobile. But I did have an N-Gage. And then the third, I think the other point to call out is a complete omission, but I did have the Atari Lynx, not the first one, but the Atari Lynx 2. And I think that's somewhere in my loft, but I have no idea exactly where it is. So kind of whizzing through, if we go through like row by row. So the first one, I mean, most people will recognise, so the ZX Spectrum 48K. So this came out as 1982, so I would have been like 4 years old. I reckon we probably didn't get it then, maybe like a year after. So I must have been about 5. I can't believe I was doing Horace Go Skiing and all kinds of other gaming stuff when I was 4 years old, but probably like 5 and a bit. That would have entered the household. So yeah, some classic games on that. Horace Go Skiing, School Days, I think like Frogger. My kind of first foray into computing, really. I don't think at that stage, I don't think there were any at school. So yeah, would have rigged up the tape deck, played around with those fiddly volume and tone settings to try and get the game loaded. So that was that. And then probably a couple of years after, I'm not entirely sure what the game was, a few years after, the Plus 3 came out. So again, we're kind of fortunate enough to get that one. So picked that one up, more bought for me, probably for like Christmas. And as most people know, I mean, the Plus 3, there's the Plus 2, which is one in between, which is the integrated cassette deck. The Plus 3, as you can see, and it's a bit dusty, it has the integrated like disk drive, so a bit more straightforward to use, no faffing around with the that's a bit upside down, but no faffing around with the cassette. Yeah, and a nice bit of kit. I don't think I had loads of discs, because again money was a bit kind of tight, and I think the games I did have were like compilation games. I'm sure there's like some US Gold ones. I remember playing like Rambo, or one of the Rambo games in there, where you run around and all the items kind of randomly appear in different places. You get like missile launchers and all kinds of funky stuff, but it was hard as hell, tricky old game. And anyone that's watched my kind of gaming memory video will know that Shinobi was the bit of a spoiler, but Shinobi was the game in there, and obviously the console that was played on was the Master System, which is long gone, long been sold. Hence, you got a nice little printout on a bit of paper. And then carrying on, sticking with the Sega theme, moving on to the Mega Drive. Altered Beast. Certainly Sonic, had some other, a few like good old sports games like Joe Montana. I think one of them might have done the kind of a speech, and it's quite clever, quite ahead of its time. I don't remember the gameplay really standing out too much, but loved the Mega Drive at the time. And then kind of switched to Nintendo, and I didn't at the time, I didn't have a an NES. So again, this is my first console, first Nintendo console that I picked up. So with that, I mean the packing game was it Super Mario World, but like had loads of awesome other games like I remember having Star Wing, International Superstar Soccer, and a flurry of other ones. Still hooked on the Nintendo, as you can see, and this was, I don't know, this was a console which we picked up in fact it was at university, so there was a group of us within our house in the second year, so it's probably, trying to think, like 1997, 98. Sounds about right. So yeah, with that and GoldenEye, we played that game to death, and Mario Kart. Someone picked up Turok Dinosaur Hunter, which was pretty groovy. And a couple of other games, and cheesy, crappy ones as well. It was Automobili Lamborghini, which was a bit tack. But yeah, it was good old console. That's not the one we had back then, so I kind of repurchased it in recent years just to try and get back into some of those games. And around this time, really a couple of years after, I would have graduated, and then the first console I got when I was doing proper work was the PS2, and again I would have sold that one. I remember getting one of the Grand Theft Auto games, whichever was it, GTA 3, perhaps whatever one that came out when that console was released. A bit of Grand Theft Auto on that, and then flipped over to good old Microsoft with the Xbox. Don't remember having it for too long, and to be honest, I've lined it up with the GameCube because I can't for the life of me remember which way round I got them. I know there's a bit of overlap in terms of the console's kind of history, so for ease I've just bung one on top of the other one. But yeah, Xbox, I remember playing Halo, some of the one of the Tom Clancy ones as well, because I remember having the like the internet, whatever it was, was network connection, and then the little headset thing to play some of those games, which again was pretty, at the time, was pretty amazing. To be able to kind of insult people and be insulted in an international scale was always a giggle. And then the GameCube, with that, I'm trying to think what games I had. Resident Evil 4, which I still love to this day, one of my faves. I think it's the first Luigi's Mansion. Star Wars, I think there's a couple that came out, but I remember Rogue Leader sticking out, so that was pretty good fun. And then jumping probably a few years to what the GameCube was like around 2002, to the Wii, which was 2006, and again got that round Crimbo. I remember taking that up north, my in-laws to play with kind of them, my cousins, and I don't think anyone really had one at the time. And so, you know, it came with was it the Wii Sports and the play games, so the bowling, the tennis, and all that stuff. And over time, I got some. Yeah, I mean, my Wii collection now is a fair bit bigger, but yeah, Donkey Kong Country Returns, pretty wicked. I mean, Mario Kart Wii, most of the Mario games, Mario Galaxy. So yeah, loved that. Right, now we come on to the second row. So these are the handhelds. Swing like that. So the first one, which probably was the first handheld for quite a few people, was the Game Boy. So I would have got this early 90s. I think the Game Boy came out, was it 1990? So not long after. Could have been a birthday, could have been Grimbo. I picked that up. Obviously came with Tetris. I think I got Mario Land around the same time. And then a bit of a gap. And in fact, we were on holiday over in France, and I had a few French francs burning a hole in my pocket. And it was in this kind of hypermarché place. Big old store, but like a tiny little collection of Game Boy games. I don't think it had long come out, and one of them was Gargoyle's Quest. And I remember looking at it thinking, oh, is this going to be okay? I hadn't really heard of it. I don't think I kind of picked up any Game Boy magazines. Obviously the old Tinternet wasn't around, so it was a bit of a gamble, but a gamble that paid off. And absolutely absolutely loved that game. And even looking back, it's pretty good platformer. So yeah, the Game Boy, and then injecting a little bit of colour to proceedings. I can't remember exactly when I got it. I know it's wedged in the timeline between the N64 and the PS2, so that's probably must be late 90s, I would have thought. So just after uni, I would have picked that up. Again, didn't hang on to it for too long. I think I had Mario on there, perhaps one of the early or first Pokemon games. Probably would be worth a bit of money if I still had that right now, which I don't. And James Bond 007, I think Mario Golf as well, which was pretty cool in colour. And then yeah, kind of a bit of a Nintendo theme, as you can see with the Game Boy. So I think that's like the Game Boy SP. I've also got like the normal one, the GBA. Other ones are the non-foldy variety floating around somewhere upstairs. And then the DS. And with the original DS, it was pretty cool because you can play the carts. I think like an R4 card in there with about 200 games on there, whatever. But then you could also play the GBA, like the Game Boy Advance games as well. So that's pretty good. And then a big old seismic shift in time, as you can see, between there, the DS, and then getting the Switch Lite, and then more recently, coming off nearly going into the garden, the Evercade. Right, so that brings us to the third and final row. So this is really consoles and a few handhelds that I didn't have back in the day, but would have liked. But obviously, because I had other consoles or computers, you know, couldn't afford, or couldn't rationally pick them up. Or they could be items that perhaps I didn't know too much about back then, but now in more recent days and being more into the retro scene, actually thought, right, actually, you know what, wouldn't mind getting one of them and going out and picking them up. So the first one, which is, I try to keep them fairly chronologically, which came out before the Master System, is the NES, so the Nintendo Entertainment System. I bought quite a few games for that. Chip and Dale, DuckTales, Mega Man 2, so mainly platformers. Got it off, I think, Facebook Marketplace. Needed a bit of a kind of clean inside, and that works a treat. I thought I might need to change the pin connectors in there, but a bit of a clean and the rubbing alcohol. The life was restored, which was cool. I think this is my most recent purchase, which is the Saturn, which I needed in order to play Chase HQ. So again, in another video, I picked up I didn't do like a European Saturn version of Chase HQ, so I got like a Japanese one, and managed to, through a universal connector and a couple of other bits and bobs, get that to work with fairly looked fairly good on the telly. Played it a lot back in the day at university, but PS1. Again, never properly kind of owned one of them. And again, cheap as chips. I thought I'd pick one of those up with all the old classics, Wipeout, Ridge Racer, I think FIFA, etc. Tomb Raider. So loving that. Dreamcast. So I've got a couple of these, and I work out. So I've got one that's got the Emu mod in it, which is this one, and then another one like a normal one, which just plays the original discs with the laser inside. So yeah, quite a few games. Obviously on that modded one, there's loads on that little card. But in terms of games, you're Ready to Rumble, Crazy Taxi, Jet Set Radio, Shenmue. I tried to get into that, but just needed a bit more time. I think I started it when I was caught up with other stuff, so probably wasn't the best time to embark on a game like that. But pretty impressive stuff. And again through Facebook Marketplace, and in fact a bit of a seller. I got fairly kind of pally with and exchanged on a few items. So yeah, got the Xbox 360 with loads of games, mainly. There's some Call of Duties in there. GTA 5, I think, which is really good fun. Street Fighter 4. So yeah, be honest, I don't plug that in too much. And if I do, it's mainly a quick bash on Street Fighter 4. And then in terms of consoles, I've got like the 3DS. Again, another marketplace deal. This was quite a bargain. In fact, it came with about 15 or so games, and I think because it's folded, the screen on it is just like perfect. Perfect condition. So that's a nice little toy. And on that play, quite a few games, like Ridge Racer, even like the Mario Kart ones come out, but pretty well on that, and a few other games. And then the other one I had to get was the Wii U. It's probably the only one of the few Nintendo consoles that I didn't pick up when they first came out. So nabbed one of these, which I think is great. I don't have very many games for it, but it's quite clever, pretty innovative how it uses the screen, particularly for like map games, and it's very reasonable. But like Zombie U, where you use the screen at the bottom as the map, as the inventory, it works really well. So I love that. And then the 2DS, and that is it. Well, I hope you enjoyed that rather different take on my computer and video gaming history. Just a few little cheesy facts and figures. It wouldn't be a RetroEd video without those. So a few bits I've jotted down. So in total, there was 24 items that I'd laid out, either in the flesh or as prints. So there's 2 microcomputers, so obviously the speckies, 14 consoles, and 8 handhelds. So if you take out the microcomputers, 2/3 of the items I had were consoles. Obviously a third were handheld. 8 of the items, so a third again, were actually purchased after they originally came out, probably more recent years, as part of me trying to amass my retro collection. Again, linked to the prints, there were 6 items that I'd sold and haven't been kind of repurchased over time. Some of them because I haven't got a massive interest in going back and re-exploring the library. Or alternatively, there may be a successor console or handheld that can play some of those games. There's just little point in going back and buying the hardware, or even like a converter. So, for example, the Master System games I can play through the converter on the Mega Drive. And then the final fact, there was about 10 years where I didn't buy any consoles between the Wii and the Switch Lite. And that's not to say I've kind of fell out of love with gaming. I just fell out of love with where at the time more modern gaming was heading. So stuck to the old consoles and building out the collection on there. And that's it. So yeah, I hope you enjoyed the video. If you like the content and want to see more stuff like this, then I'd love you to subscribe, hit the bell icon, and then you won't miss out whenever I release any upcoming videos. I try to do between 1 and 2 videos a week, depending on kind of work commitments and other things going on. Most importantly, I'd love you to comment below. You got any kind of thoughts on this video? Would love to hear from you guys. And with that, I love you and leave you, and I'll see you in the next video. Cheers.